So, hey everybody, my name is Jared Malott. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Calise, and this is the Coltist, Season 2, Episode 4. We're going to call this one the Will Levis episode, as
Yeah, because we
uh,
had to basically.
yeah, as we've gone through this second season here, going in the combine, it's pretty clear the Colts are kind of obligated to take quarterback, and we figured, hey, this class has probably 4 to 6 guys that are going to get a shot. I hate to speak for everybody at Stampede Blue, have sort of settled on Will Levis being like our fourth. If the
Yeah.
Colts are picking fourth and they don't trade up, and that's the guy, I mean, I guess. Um, I don't think that's going to happen. So the thing about the draft is, especially early, there's always a team that trades into that top area. Rumors Chicago's trading out. It might be
Yeah.
Houston, it might be Carolina. But let's just get it out of the way. Let's say Chicago does trade back twice, and that puts Houston at 1, Chicago at 2. Um, Houston 1, let's say like Carolina trades with
Yeah.
Chicago up to 2.
That's the only one I can imagine, like where they need to do that. But
Yeah.
again, I believe it was Stephen Reed that made up a really good point that said if you drop down, if you drop down to nine, you're basically missing out. Like you're guaranteed to miss out on both Jalen Carter and Will Anderson.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the Bears would want either one of them.
Right.
So that's the price. And also, some of the prices I've been seeing from Bears fans on Twitter saying like, yeah, we could trade back with the Colts, and the Colts give us the fourth overall pick, their next year's first, this year's second, the first
Mhm.
Wagner, Ryan Kelly, Michael Pittman, and all that crazy shit. I'm like, why?
No,
Like, no one's
no,
gonna do that. Like, that's not gonna happen. I
no.
mean, I could understand it if you were saying like, okay, you have Trevor Lawrence, you have Andrew Luck, you have a Joe Burrow type of player that you're like, yeah, I'm willing to, bet the house on him. I wouldn't do that for Bryce Young. I wouldn't do that for CJ Stroud. I wouldn't do that for Anthony Richardson. Not that I don't like them, just that I wouldn't feel comfortable, giving all this stuff up for them.
Yeah. I would be more inclined, for example, to trade this year's 4 and that extra third we got for Wentz, right? To just move up a spot or something. Like, there shouldn't be needing
Yeah,
that much. We don't need a first pick. It'd just be nice to crack the top 3. Ironically, so we're not drafting this guy right here, right? So we're not
yeah,
drafting
that's
Will Levis. My big beef there was touted big arm. I got a big cannon, and they all went out there and threw the same ball. So it's like, go back and watch. They were throwing it from the 10 and it's landing the opposite 30. Call my bluff. So, like, I, and again, I went back and watched because there was guys that we work with that were like, oh my God, Anthony Richardson can't throw it out. And they were all complete. So I don't know what we're talking about. Um, So I get it. There's a lot of knee-jerk reaction happening in the sports world, but
yeah,
I'm a very much a big fan of if you can measure it, and the guy was like willing to do the work. Anthony Richardson had the greatest combine performance of all time
yeah,
for
yeah,
a
no
quarter. I
doubt.
mean,
Like,
you could say for a quarterback, or you could say no. Let me explain this to you. This dude weighed 244 pounds and ran a 4.43 40, and also had a 40-inch vertical.
yeah,
You know
he
what I mean?
didn't
And a
bench.
10-10, he didn't, but
Yeah,
nobody,
he didn't even
quarterback would
bench,
have
but he
benched.
would like he would easily be
He looked like
like,
the strongest.
yeah, he looked like he would be easily without breaking sweat, the strongest quarterback.
Yeah. And
So
the issue here with Will Levis is that you almost have none of those measurements on Will Levis, other than he came in at the same height and 15 pounds less than Anthony Richardson. He was 229. And again, Will Levis is slated to be a plus starter in the NFL, by all things considered. And he did look like a pretty good athlete, although, like I said, there's just no numbers to back that up at all. And as I did a little research on Will Levis, here's some more beef I have with this pick. Okay. I don't think he's the pick because he got injured toward the end of this past season and missed 2 games in a bowl. And it's like, hey, they're literally locking out Lamar Jackson right now. Now, we could
Yeah,
sit here and talk about it being racially motivated. We could just talk about the facts. And the facts are just like you and I were talking about load management, right? Before we pressed record, we were talking about load management. And you had pointed out how, man, it sucks when you like taking a chance. I'm going to go try to see, you were talking about going to see the Brooklyn Nets, right? And I want to go
yeah.
see
Trying to get
KD
yeah.
and I want to see Kyrie Irving, and you go and neither one of them play.
Back when they were still with the Nets.
Yeah, yeah. And I think people know that shit. But the
Yeah,
reality of the situation is like when we sit and talk about load management and you're looking at a guy, for example, like Lamar Jackson, a mobile quarterback, who when it's time to pay the piper for a guy who went like 45 and 16 as a starter, is basically like 75% to win if he
yeah,
plays the game, which is like super good for everybody out there. It's like Lamar Jackson's terrible. MVP led the league in touchdown passes. This is like, come on, get a concrete argument here. But the reality is now there's rumors that he's being locked out, so that he's kind of like stuck with this franchise tag and going to get stuck in
yeah,
Baltimore. And then so with Will Levis here, the issue is that if you just trade places with Lamar Jackson with any other quarterback, and they have no leverage because you're not the athlete. Like when it comes to a guy like Anthony Richardson, he will have leverage in the same spot because he still has the ability to get outside the pocket, escape from a
yeah.
pass rush,
Make plays happen
make plays with
basically.
your feet. Yeah, and I don't think that you can answer that question about Will Levis. Why? Well, he's coming off injuries and he didn't play in the bowl game, which would arguably be the most competitive game he could have played in, right? And then and I want to be corrected when I'm wrong, but he also had an opportunity to play in senior bowl and pass that up
Yeah, he
too,
did it. Yeah,
right? So
that's correct. Yeah, he passed that
injured
up,
late in the
and
season
then yeah,
when it
then he went
counts,
out. Like he
right?
went out and said like he was in the combine because he wants to show off that arm.
And
Like
yeah,
that, he said it himself. Like I want to show off the cannon. Then why wouldn't you throw in the Senior Bowl?
well,
Like if you,
here's what's crazier about it. I went back and watched them all. He threw 59 mile an hour. Anthony Richardson threw 60 mile an hour. So like he's touted he had this big arm, and that wasn't the toy, right? That wasn't what everybody saw at the combine. What I think everyone saw was, wow, CJ Stroud looks really clean. And then when they saw Anthony Richardson, wow, he looks like an athlete. Like he was very
yeah, he
powerful.
looks, yeah,
You know what I mean? So I'm
like
not, and again, I don't
easily,
want to diminish what Will Levis was doing because if you really think about it, if I'm really sitting here saying like CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson looked really good, well, Will Levis was throwing the same balls, right? And he throws with some power. And like I've said, he's
yeah,
gonna get an opportunity. So I'm not sitting here saying he's
yeah,
bad or
yeah. I'm
nothing.
not saying, yeah, no,
It's
no.
it's just it's
I'm
just
not
if
saying
you
he'll
look
be a
at
bust. Just that
Bryce Young,
it's
CJ
like,
Stroud, Anthony Richardson, it's like I'd rather have any of them,
yeah,
especially given that on at least two of them, I got some more measurables out of them. I have
yeah,
some things to go off of. And like I said,
like
the real
if,
treat was Anthony Richardson's
yeah,
combine. Kind of, he went from, oh, he would be nice if the Colts got him to, hey, we might have to take him. You know what I mean? Like he's not slipping. You
yeah.
know, they were talking. I remember a couple weeks ago that you would see like a mock draft. Anthony Richardson goes 19th, and then like now
Yeah,
he's like a top
some even
five on
like,
everybody's board. You know what
yeah.
I mean?
When the draft process started, I remember I saw some guy saying, "Yeah, he's gonna be there in the second round," and I was like, "There is no way on earth this guy
No,
is like past
no,
the 5 spot."
it's not gonna happen
And
twice.
yeah,
The Lamar Jackson thing's not happening twice.
yeah, not happening twice. And
Like,
the thing with Will Levis for me is that if you ask me, he has the lowest floor and the lowest ceiling. So you're like, why would you want that over the other three guys?
yeah,
And then what I've been thinking is if shit happens and say Chicago trades down with the Panthers and the Panthers take Anthony Richardson, then the Texans take CJ Stroud and say the Cardinals trade back with I don't know, like say the Raiders, and the Raiders leapfrog the Colts and take Bryce Young, and you have Will Levis in at fourth. I would much rather, either you trade back or you take Jalen Carter and just suck one more year. Take a shot at Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
I don't want to spend that pick on Will. Like I don't want to spend a top five pick on that guy.
I'm
Like I
with you.
wouldn't
I'm
feel
with you
comfortable
there.
doing that.
I think that what could very well happen um is the Colts trade back, allow someone to take like a Levis. It's like Oakland can go ahead and you trade back with Oakland. Okay, go get your guy, right? We'll just sit on that. I've said like you got to pay attention to the signs, right? I read The Alchemist when I was coming home from Charlotte after the annual Football Coaches Association annual meeting. I was reading The Alchemist, right, about reading the signs. Well, Shane
That's a great
Steichen
book.
had Peyton Manning as a supporter before he got the job. Well, what, let me ask you, what combine attendee had Peyton Manning's blessing? Hendon
What's the
Hooker.
strap?
So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
the
So,
Tennessee guy. Yeah, the
yeah.
Tennessee
So,
guy.
so we're sitting here talking about this is the Will Levis episode of all the prospects that we've seen. If we had to rank them, he would be the one that if it was at four, I'd really have to think about trading back. Well, just to throw this out there, hey, before Shane Steichen was hired, the story comes out that Peyton Manning really likes Shane Steichen. He was recommending, and he's in Jim Irsay's ear saying, "Hey, man, you ought to hire this guy." Well, he's also in Hendon Hooker's phone book, and he's got him in his corner, and they're trading books and stuff. You know what I mean? Like these are colleagues because obviously Peyton
Yeah,
Manning is at the University of Tennessee,
yeah, and
but like,
I did not understand, why. Like I get the injury, but
mhm,
why Hendon Hooker, dropped so much. Like I was watching him play in Tennessee before he tore his ACL, I believe it was, and I was
yeah.
like, holy shit, this guy can play.
Yeah, see
Like I
the
get
problem
that
that he
the
presented when he
scheme.
got injured is there's five guys. Hannah Hooker was the fifth play. I was so jazzed for this class prior to Hannah Hooker and Will Levis going down late. And I was like, "Oh, those are two guys that could have went in the top 10." Like I'm not again, I don't ever want anyone to be like, "Are you really saying that like the Colts should like sit back and wait and take Hannah Hooker?" No, I'm saying that you got to pay attention to the signs.
Yeah,
Steichen's here because of Peyton Manning. Let's just float that. And then why not Hendon Hooker? And obviously, I don't think the Colts are going to be able to take two quarterbacks.
no,
Although
I don't think they do the
I'm
double
hearing
dip.
that Houston's thinking about doing that, um, which is definitely an interesting strategy. Cotton. We'll see how that.
And they already have Davis Mills, who I believe, you put a solid cast around him, and he's an league average type of guy.
Yeah, he's a neck ahead.
Like he was
Um,
solid. Like he was solid with the easily the worst supporting cast in the NFL, and he was. I mean, of course, he was rough, but watching him twice, I remember like thinking, "Hey, this guy on the Colts, he would be much better than whatever we have right now."
yeah, just because you see a guy like swimming and shit, and you're like, yep, he does it a little better than our guy does it. You know what I mean? At least he's
Yeah,
not. At least he
like
doesn't
he's making.
completely melt in the pocket.
Yeah,
But yeah. So obviously now the combine's over. Um, the tight end class looks super deep.
yeah,
Um, it was kind of funny when we were chatting among ourselves. Everybody's like, "Hey, did they replace the turf or something?" Everybody's really fast. Um, there was a sub 4.340. I always would like to point it out. There's only been like four in the last decade.
yeah,
Um, a kid from Michigan, and like I said, they look like they were saying during the combine that there are double-digit starting tight ends in this draft, which is incredible. Um, and yeah, there were more quarterbacks that threw really well. I think this probably be like the last quarterback we
yeah,
name an episode for. And then it's kind of
yeah.
like, hey, we're getting down to like a month from the draft. You know what I
Yeah, then
mean?
it's free agency. Perhaps we could make like a mock draft, a free
Yeah.
agency episode.
So when we say Will Levis episode, it's really like Will Levis. two kids. There was the Division II all-time leading passer got to go to the NFL Combine. I think it was Shaw College, and then there was the kid from BYU, another BYU quarterback, following Zach Wilson to the NFL, and also threw. I thought Stetson Bennett, the quarterback from Georgia, he
He
looked
had a
good.
good he had a
Uh,
good combine. Yeah, like
I
he
mean, he
was.
ran he ran a 4.6 40.
Yeah,
He was
like
throwing them same balls. He looks like he throws well. He's going to be a late round grab for somebody. And again, we're not sitting here saying these guys are going to be like starters in the NFL or anything. But one of the things I want to always talk about is I am a quarterback, have coached quarterbacks, scouted quarterbacks, and we're sitting here naming the first four episodes of the
yeah,
second season of our podcast after these quarterback prospects. Um, what I'm really impressed with was the quality of athletes uh with this class. And I get it, like Stroud didn't do much. Um Levis didn't do much here either. And traditionally quarterbacks don't. But when you did see them, they didn't look like a puddle of mud, you know what I mean? They look like
yeah.
athletes.
Yeah, they
And
look
like I
like
said,
athletes. Yeah, that's them.
and I think that speaks to a lot of guys that we our colleagues with have expressed the question like, since when did being an athlete matter at quarterback? And the reason that I think that being an athlete at quarterback matters, or might be the most, if not the most important aspect of your quarterbacks, like being able to get rid of the ball, I think you can coach to that. I believe in coaching, right? But I
Yeah,
can't make a guy run a half a second fucking faster
nah,
40. Like I can't make that happen. And I like to use the sprint out, which is like a 9 yard run, to show the difference between like my fat ass and a guy that runs a 4.40, and what that difference on that sprint out looks like when he's the fuck out there real fast and he has like
yeah,
tons of space, and he can see different angles because of his speed and his ability to get out there. And one day I'll like show it on film so that people could see it and be like, oh, that makes sense. If the guy's like shorter and slower, then it takes him more steps to travel the same distance.
yeah. It makes
Oh,
like
so you want the big athletic guy because when he has to move, he's going to be able to get real clear of everybody and get his body around. And when he has to move his shoulders around and make a throw and stuff like that, he's going to be able to do that without getting hurt. So yeah, and I think the better athlete you are, and the more how do I say that? The more physical a ball carrier you are, I believe that means you have a probably a more developed sense of spatial awareness. And one thing I've noticed about non-athletes, especially at quarterback, is that like a non-athlete at quarterback has no concept of a pass rush. And
yeah,
that guy just gets hit like a house on fire. Um, Matt Ryan, not that good of an athlete and has absolutely no spatial awareness. He couldn't tell you how far someone is away from him. If he just like took a 3 step drop, the pass rush came and the guy went right or left of the tackle and he closed his eyes, he wouldn't be able to
yeah.
tell you where
Just
they are based on the sound of their footsteps. It's like he's playing the video game with the headphones off. So what I've noticed with athletes, they tend to be better in the pocket. Now I get it. There's also a whole lot of evidence that suggests the better the athlete, the more skittish they are, and the more likely they are to break the pocket and try to make a
yeah,
play. Again, I think that those things can be coached. And like, so we're talking about what has happened as probably a result of not great coaching, and then what can happen. And since one is something that did happen and one is something that could happen, we need to make sure that you keep like frames of reference. Like, I don't really care what has happened, given that the bunch of things have changed, right? And one of the things that now that matters that came out on ESPN, I'm one of those things like ESPN is not like the leader in data science. You know what I mean? They're like
yeah,
behind people, but when they're on an NFL broadcast and they post a statistic and it's just like, I don't know what that was to you, but that looked like a memo to every NFL owner. 70% of completed passes in the NFL are happening outside the pocket. And if you sit and you think like, what is the answer to the problem? Two-thirds of our passes are being completed outside of, oh, I need the best athlete I can get so that he can get free of a pass rush outside of the pocket, get his body into the right position and make a throw. Right? Because
Yeah.
if the answer is anything else, it's clearly incorrect. Oh, he's not that good of an athlete. Oh, he's got a big arm. Well, that doesn't really matter if he's dead. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if he can't escape the pass rush. And turf toe is the injury that Will Levis had and a shoulder injury. So again, he wanted to tout a big arm, came to the combine through the same ball that 17 other quarterbacks threw. Sorry to just say that they all were launching it at the 10 and it was landing on the opposite 30. You can call it whatever you want. I call it the same ball. Um, he didn't show me nothing. It'd be different if it'd be different. He's thrown it from the 10 onto the opposite 10, and then everybody else has thrown it to the opposite 30. Oh, there's your big arm. It didn't happen. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
They all had this about the same depth on their ball, and it's because if you think about what is feasible to throw downfield, right? If you look at when they were letting the ball go, they were all taking like a 5-step drop, waiting, throwing. And it's like, when is that happening? So
Yeah. Never.
it was like watching guys at the driving range. But again, this is the Will Levis episode. So talk about underwhelming at the driving range. But that's because all these other guys were just athletes too. You know what I mean? And like I said,
Yeah.
that speaks to the NFL is changing. Look at what was at the combine. A bunch of athletes at quarterback, where what people came out there to see, what the average fan went to the combine to watch was that quarterback class throw the deep ball. And this being the Will Levis episode, that's what he came there to do. And the
Yeah. That
problem
was.
is that
Yeah.
arose from that situation is everybody else brought it too, right? So it's like you it's like going
Yeah.
to
You have
going
no.
to
You,
going to the gun
you
range.
basically have
Everybody
no
brings the same
advantage. Yeah.
gun. It's like, how fun is this going to be? Everybody's got the same gun. You know what I mean?
Your edge. Your edge says disappeared. Like your edge was supposed to be like, oh yeah, Anthony Richardson can run. Bryce Young has the resume. CJ Stroud has the accuracy. I have the arm power. And then you don't. And you're like, okay, what do you bring to the table? Like, what is it that would make me take you before any of the other three?
Maybe
And you
he's
can't
a
answer that.
really nice guy.
Yeah,
And
and I don't think so. Like
uh,
we were talking about this before we start recording. He puts mayonnaise in his coffee, and that alone, just
makes him
I don't know if
undraftable
you I don't know if you drink coffee, but putting mayo in
every
coffee is
day.
just did you ever like even remotely think about putting mayo in there?
No, no,
Like
no, no.
and
No, in fact, the comment about putting mayo in your coffee, it's unbelievable. Um, whether as far as it being something you did more than an accident, like more than once. So I don't buy it.
yeah.
And that's part of the lack of charm that I sense, I smell. One of our colleagues said he felt like CJ Stroud was forcing it. I think Will Levis is bullshitting and accidentally drank some coffee with some mayo in it once and realized that it's kind of funny when you say I put mayo in your coffee. It doesn't have to be true. It didn't have to be something you do habitually. And I question the sanity of someone who does it more than it was an
Yeah.
accident once. AK didn't have anything else. Somebody said, hey, mayo's tangy. Whatever, I'll try it. Hakatui. I'm gonna tell everybody I drink coffee with mayo in it. Okay, I drink coffee every day. I make my own at home. No, no, I don't buy that for a second. But that's because I have taste. You know what I mean? Like I would never tell someone that I put mayo in my coffee because that's absurd.
Yeah.
And so you want me
Like
to pay you millions of dollars so you could say other dumb shit? Like, no. You know what I
it's
mean?
just yeah.
Will Levis is gonna come out and be like the baby of quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Where people is like he's fake. You know, is Bad, just a bad hip hop joke. Um, to come out here and be like him and Jack Harlow, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Gonna be
yeah, I know the song.
what's popping the fourth team in 4th year in 4 years. Will Levis gets cut from his first 3 teams, finally latches on to the Renegades or something. You know what I mean? Will Levis to
Yeah, an
me
XFL team.
screams XFL quarterback. So, and I mean, maybe he'd be really good. So, hey, we ought to talk about the Pacers since that's the other half of the Coltist is like on the one hand,
Yeah,
talk about the Colts. Right now, we're fresh out of a combine. So I think is a good idea. Hey, these are the first handful of picks. If we, if we're to get, whatever happens, happens, right? Yeah, it's
yeah,
probably a good idea. From here forward, we'll try to figure out another naming convention, just keep it interesting. I think consistency with naming conventions is generally like as long as the episode number is there and there's like some progression with the episode number, then like everything else is
yeah.
fine.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so you can just call it whatever fuck you want after that. But yeah, in terms of the Pacers, before we got to recording again, we just kind of said like they got hosed playing the Sixers the other night.
Yeah, it was
Uh, lo-
embarrassing. Like,
Lost by a handful. It was ugly late. The Philly is a 3 seed in the East, so it's not like they're nobodies.
yeah,
And
it's
then
not like we lost against the, I don't know, the
yeah,
whatever
Pistons
team.
who
Yeah,
who
or
they
the
play on
Magic.
Thursday. Yeah.
It's like,
So
yeah,
by
and
the
Embiid
way,
went.
they play them Thursday and Saturday, and they're supposed to win them games by almost double digits each.
Yeah,
So the Pacers, again, I always like to point out, like we're not sitting here saying like they're world beaters, you know what I mean? But I think
nah, yeah, nah.
we were talking about load management and about how I want to see the best players healthy in the playoffs because I believe in magic. I think if we can get to the playoffs, you never know what happens, especially because the way that there's like these random days off and like you
Yeah,
random even without load management, there's still like these odd times in the
yeah,
in sports where there's just
weird
like
stuff
you get
happens.
a
Yeah,
layoff. Huh, that's weird. I hope that's going to impact what happens here. So I think
you can,
that your seating don't matter, getting there matters. And I
yeah,
think if you look at you brought it up, so I'm giving you credit here. We were talking about like the Lakers. They're letting their stars rest. They're winning games when they can win them without them. And then hey, they're hanging on right on the edge, being play in or like the A seed. And it's like, right. And all you really want to be doing is playing your best ball